What if you could have a career where the opportunities are as vast as our nation, where it's not about mission statements, but a shared mission? At U.S. Customs and Border Protection, we go beyond to protect more than borders. From ship to shore, air to ground, cities to local communities, CBP agents and officers are keeping people safe. Join U.S. Customs and Border Protection and go beyond for something far greater than yourself. Learn more at cbp.gov/careers.
Feisty, fearless, and fair. She's an Emmy-winning journalist from the White House to war zones, telling all sides of the story. This is the Rita Cosby Show.
I know your name is Rita, 'cause your perfume is smelling sweet. Since when I saw you down on the floor. Guitar.
Well, we are just getting word tonight of some comments that President Trump just made on an interview that he did with Sean Hannity on Fox TV. And it's interesting because he's watching, of course, all the back and forth, as is the whole world watching the back and forth with the Democrats and President Joe Biden. And here is what President Trump had to say. He thinks that essentially Biden's too stubborn to drop out. Listen to this.
You know, it looks to me like he may very well stay in. He's got an ego and he doesn't want to quit. He doesn't want to do that. It just looks to me like that's what he wants. I think Jill would like to see him stay. She's having a good time. I notice she really seems to be having a good time. And I'm hearing that Hunter is calling the shots. So this isn't necessarily a very positive thing for our country. But I think he, might very well stay in. And if he does, nobody wants to give that up that way. He's going to feel badly about himself for a long time. It's hard to give it up that way, the way where they're trying to force him out.
And it doesn't look like President Biden is going anywhere. By the way, the head of the Black Caucus, who had a meeting tonight talking about the fate of Joe Biden, came out and said, quote, that the president is fit to serve. You're also hearing that some of the people who were part of this chorus, if you will, to kind of get rid of the president on the Democratic side after his dismal debate performance, that a number of them are sort of backpedaling or hoping that it's forgotten, if you will, by President Biden, because he keeps saying he's not going anywhere. And the way the rules are, he has to be surrendering, or Vice President Kamala Harris could invoke the 25th Amendment and work with the cabinet, but she would have to do that. So there's so many of these political intricacies, and it's very complicated at this late in the game to push Joe Biden out. And we're also, again, tonight, the other news, as we just mentioned, that's happened is that the president's doctor, this is his personal doctor. You get to have your own doctor at the White House. And then he goes for his exams at Walter Reed, like all the doctors do. They get their annual physical exam, like all of us should. And so President Joe Biden, apparently, according to his doctor, again, his doctor should go out there and do a press conference. Don't just hide with a little letter out there. And I contend this is sort of medical malpractice, because the doctor apparently, in trying to sort of dispel questions about the recent Parkinson's expert who has been visiting the White House, because it came out through White House logs. Well, in this letter, he is saying that the president has not seen a neurologist outside of the physical exam that he does every year, the annual exam. And he's saying seen. It doesn't mean that he met with face to face, because apparently he also claimed that he met with a doctor after the debate, obviously not a neurologist. That's odd. Why wouldn't you meet with a neurologist just to make sure nothing's wrong, especially if you're getting questioned about neurological issues? So to me, what doctor says, oh, yeah, I'll just take your word for it. No problem. We'll just pretend like everything's great. And you can do another neurological questioning or whatever. Who knows? What do they do during this exam? He doesn't say what this neurologist did or expert. Who was it? Did they meet him on Zoom? Did they just ask him one question, what's your name? And he got that right and they moved on? Not according to Robert Hur, of course. Robert Hur said he's a feeble, well-meaning, elderly old man. And that's why he couldn't be prosecuted in the classified documents case. But they won't release the audio or videotape associated with that. Why not? What do they have to hide? Is it much worse than the debate? I mean, this is crazy. Why not put everything out there? If you can ace some sort of exam, go out there, take unlimited questions from the press, no notes, no nothing, say any questions on the table, any topics on the table, I'm ready. But he's not doing that. They're handing questions to reporters. He is not, look at even his response since all of these allegations about his cognitive ability. He's like been even more micromanaged than usual. And I didn't think he aced that Stephanopoulos interview. We're going to get to that in a moment because that was not an A for sure. And in the meantime, the president is calling in. He called into MSNBC today, Morning Joe. It wasn't face to face. And apparently at one point he was referring to a list. Did he have notes in front of him? We don't know. But he sure was angry. Listen to what he said. He was defiant. And he said he's not going anywhere. And he said, oh, boy, if anyone tries to go after me and wants to kick me out of the White House, they're going to have to fight me just like Corn Pop. Listen to this.
The American public is not going to move away from me as an average voter. And again, I'm here for two reasons, pal. One, to rebuild the economy for hardworking middle-class people, give everybody a shot. Just a straight shot. Everybody gets a fair chance. Number one. Number two, remember all this talk about how I don't have the black support? Come on, give me a break. Come with me. Watch. I'm getting so frustrated by the elites. Now, I'm not talking about you guys, but about the elites in the party who they know so much more. But if any of these guys don't think I should run against me, go ahead, announce the president. Challenge me at the convention.
He's sounding a lot like Donald Trump saying, God, maybe it's working for Trump. I can do it. Like, I'm fighting the elites within my party. I'm fighting the deep state. I'm this, I'm that. That was the angry Joe Biden that we heard at State of the Union. It's getting wild. But then, of course, this comes after everything that we heard in that Stephanopoulos interview. And shame on any doctor who says, oh, he doesn't need a neurological exam. We don't know that. We just know he didn't get one. So do they not want to give the test? It's almost like, please don't test me for it because there's an issue there and we don't want you to find it. So in other words, nothing to see there. Yeah, he's fine. Yeah, tell me your name, Joe. Okay, good. Let's move on. We don't even know what this test was. And what kind of a doctor wouldn't insist on a neurological exam after that debate? Even if he thought he was fine in February, which is when the last physical exam was. So in other words, he has not seen a neurologist since February, and they're not planning on seeing another one till next year. Meanwhile, questions are swirling. Wouldn't you insist on it and say, hey, put the results out there? There's nothing to see there. Let's put them out there so the whole world sees that I'm fine. I think he's afraid of the answers. Why else would you not do that? It defies logic. And it also comes after some wild answers that he gave to George Stephanopoulos on Friday night. We talked about it because that interview happened just a few minutes before the show on Friday night. And I keep going back to this answer that he said very early on into the interview. It was darn right troubling because he couldn't remember if he watched the debate or not. You know how like football players say, hey, let's watch the game afterwards to see how you did. So you don't do that play again, or you don't mess up on this again, or you learn from this. So George Stephanopoulos, who I thought did a pretty good job with the president, said, did you watch the debate afterwards? What'd you think? I said, I can't remember if I watched the debate. You can't remember if you watched the debate that happened about a week before? Here's that answer. This is troubling.
Did you ever watch the debate afterwards?
I don't think I did, no.
Well, what I want to get at is what were you experiencing as you were going through the debate? Did you know how badly it was going?
Yeah, look, the whole way I prepared, nobody's fault mine. Nobody's fault but mine. I prepared what I usually would do, sitting down as I did come back with foreign leaders or the National Security Council,
for explicit detail. And I realized about partway through that, I get quoted, the New York Times had me down at 10 points before the debate, 9 now, or whatever the hell it is. The fact of the matter is that what I looked at is that he also lied 28 times. The way the debate ran, not my fault, no one else's fault.
But it seemed like you were having trouble from the first question in, even before he spoke.
Well, I just had a bad night.
I just had a bad night. And they keep saying, well, maybe he had the, jet lag still. Maybe he had the cold, but then he went to the Waffle House afterwards. And then he couldn't remember if he watched a debate. Right after that, if you were a doctor, you'd go, wait a minute. Let's actually do a neurological exam if you can't remember a debate, if you watched it a week before. George Stephanopoulos, at that moment, George should have said, wait, you can't remember? I don't think I did see it. I don't think. Either you know if you saw it or you don't know if you saw it. That, to me, was probably one of the most troubling answers of that entire debate, that he could not remember if he saw something the week before, something as important as his own debate with Trump. That was an astounding answer. And yet, now we're led to believe tonight that they did not have a neurological expert or a neurologist in any shape or form see him outside of his annual exam. Does any of this add up to you guys? The world is wondering about his cognitive ability, and we're led to believe at this point that no one has insisted on a neurological exam, not even his wife or other members of his family. Wouldn't you say, hey, Dad, I really think you need to be checked out. Please do this for the family. Please do it for yourself. 1-800-848-9222. Let's go to Norm, line 3. Norm, this is amazing. What do you make of this new news of this doctor claiming that he hasn't had a neurological exam of any form or seen a neurologist outside of his regular physical, which if you do a regular physical and you're not looking for a neurological issue, what kind, maybe it's hey, is this a dog or a cat? Who knows what it was?
This is for you, Rita. I agree with caller David before. Cognitive testing, pish tosh. Joe Biden's mind is a trap of galvanized and forged steel before 4 p.m. I see no changes at all since he was a senator in the 1980s, and look forward to seeing him standing in Chicago. Stay in it, Joe. Stan, David, and I say stay the course.
Stay the course. Now, why do you want him to stay the course? Because you think Trump, it's easier for him to beat Biden?
I don't want to give up I don't really want to have to buy a bottle of champagne.
I think I know where you're going, my friend Norm. Norm, by the way, what did you make of David? But it was, I love having everybody on the show, you guys, and you all know that.
Sure.
Because I think it's interesting to hear other philosophies. It's this orange man bad no matter what, He's
a true believer. He believes in Joe Biden. He believes he's a Democrat. He believes in Joe Biden. And but
Norm, did you hear my question? My question to him was, no matter who's in the White House, whether it's a Republican or Democrat, I want the president, I want our president, whoever it is, to be sharp as a tack. And if our president right now is Biden, it's to America's benefit to have someone who's sharp as a tack. You want the best for this country.
Right, because people like Putin and Xi are sitting around saying, let's test this man to the maximum if they don't think that he's, on the ball.
Yeah,
and
that's for sure. That is absolutely for sure. And that's the scary thing. Our adversaries are watching. 1-800-848-9222. And we'll continue your calls, everybody, after the break. You're listening to The Rita Cosby Show.
You're listening to The Rita Cosby Show.
This is Greg Kelly for Priority Gold. What does it mean to be America's precious metals dealer? It means that you're in touch with the hearts and minds of those who love this country, value our freedom, and want to protect the future. Priority Gold is that precious metals dealer. They've helped thousands of Americans back their retirement with solid gold and silver. Call Priority Gold at 888-506-6439. Receive free shipping, free storage, a free investment guide, and one of the best purchase experiences in the industry. Call now or go to PriorityGold.com.
Save on O'Reilly Brake Parts Cleaner. Get 2 cans of O'Reilly Brake Parts Cleaner for just $8. Valid in-store only at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
There was a time when summer surprised us, when galleries opened minds, adventures opened hearts, and we all remained open to whatever the day might offer. It was a time to enjoy. It was summer, this summer, at Biltmore. Plan your visit or overnight stay so you can enjoy the marvelous works of Chihuly and savor the season. Reserve now at Biltmore.com.
This is the Rita Cosby Show.
Well, tonight, President Biden is clearly going on the offense, and you heard angry Joe Biden this morning saying, make my day, pals. If you guys want to challenge me in the Democratic Party, I am ready. And guess what? You'll have to bring it up at the convention. And this happens as a number of Democrats have asked him to call aside and to step aside. We also know that there are many others who are also supporting him. And there seems to be sort of this mixed messaging because there have been a number of meetings with people on the Democratic side in the Senate. There were word that Mark Warner, the senator, was disseminating a letter. We haven't sort of seen if it's on a holding pattern now. Then on the House side, a number of them have come out and said that they would like him not to run. But then also the Black Caucus a little bit ago came out and they had a meeting and said that he's, quote, fit to run. And Biden is clearly going on the offense. Jill Biden's also going on the offense. She's like been campaigning all over the place. And she's been saying, Joe's staying in it. Joe's doing this. Joe's doing that. He's also supposed to do a news conference this week. And the White House was claiming earlier today that it will be a solo news conference. So will they provide the questions to the reporters? Will it really be a news conference where it'll be more than 2 or 3 reporters that are questioned? Will it be like an unfettered, full throttle news conference? And will it be on a variety of topics outside of whatever the president wants to designate? We'll see. But boy, it's getting interesting every single day. My goodness. Let's go to Tony. Tony, line 2, your thoughts.
Hi, Rita. You know, I've been looking at this very somberly and also very psychologically. And I have never said this, but I feel Joe Biden is really now our paranormal Joe. And here's the leader of our country who has no agenda every time we see him. He has no plan for saving us on the home front, for representing us on the world stage. And this is really what he brings to the table, is sort of a paranormal kind of perception of him that's getting to be quite scary, because either we get someone who's mumbling or fumbling or that low, creepy, I'm not sure what I'm saying voice, or we get the very strong State of the Union and all these individual speeches voices where he gets very strong or just says, I'm here forever.
You know what I wish, Tony? You're right. It's like this sort of like weird characters. And also, it's interesting that Angry Joe, if only he had that anger when they said, hey, we want to keep the border open. No, you're not. You're going to close it. That would have been refreshing if we got Angry Joe then.
When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Kroger, where you'll find over 30,000 mouth-watering choices that excite your inner foodie. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices, plus extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week. You can also save up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with fuel points. More savings and more inspiring flavors make shopping Kroger worth it every time. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
Rita Cosby is on.
Tonight, there are reports on the vice presidential side on Donald Trump's avenue. Well, they say that the race is narrowing, and it's only literally days away because he technically has to announce who his vice president is by the Republican National Convention, and that would be Monday. That's when it starts. So we're talking a week away. That is wild. And he could announce it even sooner. There's some reports that he might do it as early as later this week. There's other people who are saying, while the Democrats are imploding, let them implode and let them continue to implode and take the headlines. It's, if your opponent is making the headlines for not the right reasons, let them keep the headlines. So if I were President Trump, I would probably wait until Monday, see what happens. This is a wild week. First of all, with everything going on with President Biden, who knows what happens with the NATO press conference that we talked about that's going to take place on Thursday. There are so many things in play. So see what's going on. But some new reports are saying that President Trump has narrowed it. There are some that say he has narrowed it to 3 people. And that is Senator J.D. Vance of Ohio, also Doug Burgum of North Dakota, the governor, and Glenn Youngkin, the Virginia governor. So that's an interesting, somebody says that's those 3. There's another report that says it is Youngkin and maybe Burgum, those where they should go. That's what the advice is from one columnist in the New York Post. There's another report that it's J.D. Vance, Burgum, and then there's another report, it's J.D. Vance, Burgum, and Rubio. And tomorrow he is going to be rallying with Rubio in Florida. So it looks like J.D. Vance and Burgum sort of in all of the polls. And then in some, they're suggesting Youngkin, and others, Rubio is still potentially in the race. But clearly, it looks like the pack is narrowing. What do you think of these choices? Where do you think he should go? Or do you think maybe Trump might pick somebody else who's not on the list? Should it be a woman? Should it be somebody like a Sarah Huckabee Sanders maybe thrown in there? Her name was talked about at one point quite a bit. He'll get Arkansas. But if you get somebody like, Burgum certainly has great executive experience. I like Sarah too a lot. I like Youngkin a lot too. You look at all these people. J.D. Vance, very impressive. I think he turns 40 next month. Extremely impressive with his background too. Youngkin, by the way, might help in the swing state. Virginia's a big state. So there's so many factors here, and there's so many interesting people at play. 1-800-848-9222, 1-800-848-9222. Meantime, we're talking about President Biden's mental acuity because it is front row and center. Everybody is talking about it. And recently, Anna Paulina Luna, she is the congresswoman from Florida, one of the congresswomen down there. She is now going to push a bill this week that is saying that Merrick Garland, the Attorney General of the United States, that he would be fined personally $10,000 a day because she is trying to get him to turn over the tapes that we all should hear. And apparently it's audio, and some are saying it's audio and video of Robert Hur, who's the special counsel who interviewed President Biden. And remember, he came out and said, oh, he's an elderly, well-meaning old man. We can't prosecute him because nobody would prosecute a man with this poor memory and so old and so forgetful, all of this stuff. So, you look at all of that and you go, well, if it's so bad, that's really troubling because he's still sitting there in the White House. And certainly after all the things that happened with the debate and all the questions after that dismal debate performance, we should darn well hear that tape. There's no reason why Merrick Garland is refusing to hand it over. And so I give a lot of credit to Anna Paulina Luna. She's trying to put some pressure, and apparently the House Speaker's on board. So maybe we might hear that tape sooner than later. Let's see. But here is what she is proposing. She was on Fox on Sunday. Take a listen to what she said. This is Cut 24 with Anna Paulina Luna talking.
We fully intend on bringing this up on Wednesday afternoon, potentially. Obviously, with the speaker supporting this, I do believe that it will pass. And so how this will work is Garland will be required out of his own pocket to pay a $10,000 a day fine for every day that he holds out on those tapes. And so what I will say is that for a lot of people, this is something that's definitely going to hurt. I don't think that Garland wants to take one for the team, if you will, in regards to continuing to fight, even though he knows that Biden is not cognitively there. So I think that it'll serve two purposes. One, obviously, there shouldn't be a double standard of justice in this country. We have people in jail for doing what he did. But also, too, I do believe that it will force him to produce either the tapes or to step down.
So will Garland just totally ignore everything, even if he has a $10,000 tab personally every day? That can add up pretty quickly. 1-800-848-9222. Let's go to Al in Yonkers. Al, your thoughts about all of this tonight. There's a lot to take in.
Yeah, Rita, thanks for taking my call. I just wanted to say in regards to the VP sweepstakes, I just wanted to say that I personally, at this point, I didn't at the onset, but I think Marco Rubio would be a really good person to be on the ticket with.
And why is that?
With Donald Trump. Well, he's Hispanic. He's articulate. He's smart. He's been in the Senate. He's done a good job. He has an intelligence background. And I just think overall he would be a real good, and he has the, qualification and experience that if he needed to be acting president or take over in an emergency, he could do the job.
And I do think, by the way, there's a Wall Street Journal story that's out tonight that says, don't pick J.D. Vance. And the reason is they're saying that they, because he is a young guy and he's only been in politics a brief time, that it's got to be somebody who has some executive experience who, because President Trump is going, whoever it is going to be one term, right? And if he becomes president, even though he certainly has experience, he's not coming in as a newbie by any doubt, but people want to know it's a steady hand. It's a crazy world. And also, if the Republican Party, that person is clearly, going to be groomed, you would think, if President Trump gets in, that person would obviously have a very good chance of being president the next go around. So it's got to be someone you sort of see in that position in a sense, too. So you like Rubio. He's going to be with Rubio tomorrow. And I like the idea of the Hispanic. Too, I think is interesting. And he's certainly been in politics now for, a long time. What are your thoughts? Who would you pick as second?
As a second, that's a good question. I probably would go with the governor of North Dakota,
Doug Burgum.
But the only thing is, Pence didn't either in regards to electoral college votes. Indiana is a safe Republican state with Pence. Burgum in North Dakota, you don't get anything in terms of picking up a stake with North Dakota, always goes Republican. But I think he's been always loyal to Donald Trump. He's never said anything critical about him. Whereas if you look at J.D. Vance, he's being pushed hard from Donald Trump Jr. He had written a book, Political Hillbilly or Elegy.
Hillbilly Elegy. Yep.
Yes, I read it. And at one time, he wasn't really a big fan of Donald Trump. So I think they could have clips of that, the Democrats, in the future.
Yeah, no, you're right. That will come back to bite them. There's no doubt. And it has to be someone who can handle a lot of incoming because, oh boy, will there be a lot of incoming, Al, in a lot of different directions. Al, thank you so much. Let's go to Rose. Rose in Florida, your thoughts tonight.
Hey, Rita, thank you, Rose, for taking my call, and thank you for your professional staff. But I need to tell you, as you know, I told you about Mary Jo Kopechne, where I was in Pennsylvania, so forth, and
that's right. I remember that. That's right.
Anonymous. I need to tell you something about the Democratic Committee. I was told once by a congressman who I work for, said everything is done in a back room. But you know something? I want to bring it up to Trump. Trump, as I knew, listen, Biden, I don't want to, I just need to forget about Trump, who I knew personally, lived in his neighborhood, knew his wife, Melania. They never gave her a freaking chance. And why is this happening? Why are our voters voting for this idiot Biden who is losing it? And listen, we all will lose it. God forbid someday. But you know something? We need a strong leader. This man, Trump, built a business in New York. Does anybody respect him?
Yeah, by the way, you're right. It's incredible what he has built. And not just, in New York and in Florida where you are, Rose, but all over the world. I mean, you look, he is literally all corners of the globe. You see a Trump Tower and it is astounding what he and his family have created. I mean, it's incredibly impressive. And that's why he got elected the first time. And it wasn't until sort of the Democratic smear machine, if you will, that now they're trying to say, oh, what businessman, what this, what that. Meanwhile, you're right. He's had a very, very impressive record. And not only that, if you look at when he was president, all different socioeconomics and races were elevated and did well. The economy was soaring. Energy was soaring. There's so many things and the border was secure. There's a lot of things that he can tout. And I think a lot of people are now realizing that, given how far we have come since then. Rose, thank you. We always love hearing from you. Let's go to Stan. Line 1. Stan, your thoughts.
This guy who's answering the phone is driving me nuts. Anyway. Oh, yeah.
Why is he driving you nuts?
Because this is a new one. I mean, he constantly says, are you there? Are you there? I'm here. Where am I going? To Jersey?
Well, maybe thought Biden was calling in, Are you there? Are you there? Are you there?
I'll take the call. All right, let's get to it.
Go ahead.
Let's get to it.
Go ahead.
First of all.
Wait, we lost you. We lost you. Stan, call back. We lost you. I'm not sure what happened, but call back. Let's go to Jacqueline. Well, I see when you comment on the call screener, that's what happens to you. Anyway, let's go.
There you go, Rita.
Go ahead, Jacqueline.
That's exactly
How dare
what he
you
gets.
say anything about our great staff? Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, well, no, I'm talking about the guy from Forest Hills. That's what he gets for talking about the call screener. What I had wanted to comment on, Rita, I wanted to ask you a question to clarify something for me. And then I had a comment on, who would replace Biden. I heard earlier in the day that a Parkinson's specialist had been to the White House at least 7 or 8 times. So can you corroborate that for me? Is that true or not true?
Wait, go ahead and repeat that because Stan was dialing in. We were all dealing with that. Go ahead.
Okay. I heard earlier today that there were reports that a Parkinson's specialist had been to the White House at least 7 or 8 times.
Yes, had been in 8 times in 8 months. And that's why the White House put out this statement tonight. They put out a letter tonight from the president's doctor. It's his personal doctor, who said that he hasn't seen a neurologist outside of his regular physical exam, suggesting
He really has. He really has. If a Parkinson's specialist...
No. They're saying, and again, we don't know if what they're telling us is everything, but we're assuming what they're saying. If you take what they're saying at face value, they're trying to suggest, because Corinne Jean-Pierre in the press briefing, Jacqueline, was saying that I can't say if the Parkinson's specialist was for President Biden or if it was for someone else.
Again, they're lying.
Well, that's what I'm saying. And by the way, who wouldn't have a neurologist look at the guy after the debate?
Well, I mean, like I say, I hate to be redundant, but anytime their mouth is moving, they're lying. The other thing, with regard to whether or not Joe Biden is the candidate, which I've said numerous times, I do not think he is going to be the candidate. And I know a lot of Republicans, a lot of conservatives that call your show and other shows on the station are very upset, and they feel that Joe Biden should not be able to get away with not being the candidate at the last minute, considering all the damage that he's done. But I think these people are forgetting you, me, and whoever else does not decide or determine who is going to be the candidate. It's the DNC that makes that decision.
Well, it's not necessarily the DNC, because the way the rules are now, they can certainly put pressure on him, and it's the delegates and all that. But at this point, technically, the only way that it could be changed is if he steps down. They could create havoc, of course, at the conference, at the convention, and through the delegates and all that stuff. But technically, he would have to pretty much have to be the person who says, "Oh, I've decided I'm not going to run anymore," or Kamala Harris institutes the 25th Amendment. Anything short of that really is a mess, and that's why it's very complicated at this phase. And now you're seeing they're sort of rallying around him now, Jacqueline, because I think they're starting to realize. They're in a bit of a mess because he says he's not going anywhere. So, boy, it gets to, do they want an ugly convention? No party wants that. But Jacqueline, great questions as always. We always love hearing from you. And everybody now to our Support Our Heroes.
The Rita Cosby Show presents Support Our Heroes.
And everybody, this is the Tunnel to Towers Foundation Support Our Heroes segment with a powerful story coming from Illinois, where they recently had the John Deere Classic, and it was dedicated to honoring military guests and also first responders in the midst of a 4th of July celebration. And this year, they honored a wonderful man, 100 years old, essentially, pretty close, almost 100, World War II veteran Henry Langrier. And Henry certainly deserved to be honored. He parachuted behind the lines of Omaha Beach on June 6, 1944, on D-Day, fighting through the hedgerows in the midst of hand-to-hand battles. And he certainly had an incredible, heroic experience. He said of those times, going through those hedgerows was a rough way to go. We lost a lot of good men, but I survived it. A beautiful family. But I also wondered, what about those other wonderful boys that we lost? They didn't get to see life at all. He was honored with a number of other veterans, and the assistant director of the golf tournament said, today we have a really special guest. And boy, are we deeply, deeply honored to recognize his service. And everybody, help America to never, ever forget. Donate $11 a month to the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Check them out at T2T.org, T2T.org.
You're listening to The Rita Cosby Show. It's The Rita Cosby Show.
And let's go to your calls. 1-800-848-9222. Stan from Forest Hill. Sorry, Stan, we got disconnected. Go ahead, my friend.
Radio Free Europe or something. Anyway, listen, it comes down to this. The New York Post, the garbage paper of the world, over the weekend, had this type. Joe up despite debacle. In Michigan, he's up. In where was it, Michigan? In Wisconsin, he's up. The numbers between them and Trump in certain areas are in the point of error. In essence, it's close, and Biden's gaining. Unbelievable.
Actually, Stan, two things. Hang on, Stan. First of all, the New York Post is a great paper. There's a lot of great papers, but they're a great paper. That's one. Two, there have been polls all over the place, and many polls that are out there are actually showing the opposite. And polls often do show different things. And again, you never know. Obviously, the real test is Election Day, and it's a lifetime away. And I have seen some polls that showed he's up, but I've seen, I would say 90% of them or 95% of them are showing the exact opposite, that Biden is dropping and Trump is excelling. So, yeah, there is one or two, but that could be an outlier, Stan. So, I know how much you hate Trump, but he very well may be the next president of the United States, Stan. And I know that is very painful for you to hear, but it could be a good thing for our borders, for our security, for our economy, and for a lot of things, Stan, whether you like it or not. I care about this country, and to me, that is the priority. Have a good night, everybody.
Economists warn that massive tax hikes could devastate your IRA and 401k as the stock market braces for impact. I'm Larry Kudlow, and I urge you to fortify your savings with physical gold with my friends at Priority Gold. To learn how gold and silver can help diversify your savings, please call 1-800-405-GOLD or just visit PriorityGold.com to get a free gold information guide. That's 1-800-405-GOLD.